Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of videos. Today I've got another game that I played back in December. As you know, I'm going back through some of my older matches. This one, again, is another local league battle against, again, sort of a bit of a stronger opponent, sort of about 1500. I haven't played this guy before, but I know he's been playing for a number of years for this particular club, so we just haven't necessarily met over the board in the past. Okay, so the game started with e4. I was playing as white. The time control was 70 minutes plus 10-second increments. So e4, e5 was then played. d4, e takes on d4, and this is part of my sort of I like to play sort of this Danish Gambit style thing. I can actually take this pawn back, but of course this comes with the knight to c6. Although I did used to play this line when I was a bit younger. Going for the centre game, and this was an interesting line, but I don't play this sort of stuff anymore. Instead, after here, I now play c3, trying to go into a Danish Gambit, which I thought would have been quite interesting to go up against him. But here my opponent just simply decided to play knight to c6, which isn't a great line, but at the very least, I don't think black is totally losing in this particular line. So now I take here in the centre, and you notice now I've got these two pawns in the centre. Here my opponent now played d5. So and after e5, I thought this was an interesting position because it looked very similar to that of a sort of Nimzovich defence. Just to show you that what that looks like, if I just show you from the start, here's the Nimzovich defence, and after something like d5 and this is an interesting position, although the difference here between this position and if I go to this position here is the absence of these two pawns, and actually this is probably slightly better as a result. So white should be slightly better. I've got more space, I've got more control of the centre, and actually black kind of lacks a good pawn break. He could do this one, but the knight's blocking it. And if he plays f6, well, I can always push the pawn forward, or even just give some annoying checks at some point, if the position warrants it at that point. Okay, so knight now came to e7. This was an interesting move. I didn't really kind of expect this to be such a good move, but I guess what it does is it now defends this knight, and it gets ready to go to f5. And I was thinking about doing something like bishop to b5 and maybe trying to go for, I don't know, some sort of double pawn position or whatever and just ruin his pawn structure. But this kind of stops that threat, but also aims to go to f5. So I really kind of had to think for a little bit. I did now play knight to f3, and well, I think perhaps I should have been better off playing this move, as the problem with knight to f3, as we're about to see, if I just go here, is now it runs into this really annoying pin, and well, it's not so simple to break out of it. If I just play moves such as h3, for example, this of course loses pretty badly to this sort of line, and actually I'm embarrassingly down a pawn in this position. So luckily that didn't happen. I now put my bishop onto e2, defends the knight, and the queen is still defending the d4 pawn. Okay, knight now comes to here, and I'm really starting to feel the pressure in this position. I've not really got a great way of holding on to my pawn. I was looking at some interesting lines. I did think about this castles line, which kind of goes a little bit like this. And, well, here, black will go up a pawn, but I'm not really sure. I don't think this is all that good. Black has got a very good, these two good knights in the centre, albeit he's not castled at the minute, so maybe I could put a bit of pressure and out-develop him in the middle game. But again, not super clear. Just to show you the line I was looking at with the engine afterwards. Yeah, I can't really see how white's doing better in this position, if I'm being honest with you. Going back over to here, another move I considered was h3. But again, this sort of stuff, I just don't think it's any good. This knight's really good on the square. It's looking to maybe just swap off and just have a pleasant position. So in this position, I then just decided to play bishop to e3. And, I'll be honest with you, it's not a nice looking line. It just looks like I'm giving him the bishop pair. But my idea was, okay, after I take back, at least I have this open file to maybe do something on. So that's what happens. This was exchanged. And then after a few more exchanges, I mean, this move here from my opponent, I really didn't rate that highly. I think that kind of gives a little bit of slight edge to me, because it just gives up his bishop pair, and I get this bishop onto this nice square, which is now hitting this pawn. So I wasn't overly confident, and I'm not really sure I entirely understood his follow-up here, which now went queen to h4. I think maybe he thought that maybe this pawn might have been hanging or something, but I don't know. I think a miscalculation or whatever it was. I was just very happy after g3, and well, and then I really didn't understand this next move, queen to d8. At this point, just undeveloping the queen. Queen to g5 that's got to be the better move, as now it's hitting this pawn, and at the very least I have to react to it. I have to do queen to e2, and then maybe something like this, and then the pawn's protected. Everything's fine. I think the reason why, and we discussed the game afterwards, why he played queen to d8 was he was thinking about how I'm going to defend this pawn, but had he just calculated just that little bit further, he would have been fine. Just to also show you, by the way, if I now take this pawn here, this obviously comes with a check. So that was why he can get away with, that's why I have to play queen to e2 in this position. Okay, so queen to d8, now I play my queen to b3. I'm now hitting these two pawns. He's got to react to this, and he throws in the check first. I block the check, and now he plays back queen to g4. Very odd. Just really strange, and now he's no longer defending this pawn, which, again, I just find these moves really, really odd. So, having said this, this is a bit of a tricky position. My queen is over here. I can't come to e2 now. So how do I go about defending this pawn? I did contemplate, do I do something like this? Oh no, I can't be the knight because it's pinned, sorry. Yeah, so I have to kind of defend this pawn. How do I do this? Well, I now play queen to e2. And my justification for this move was, okay, well, he hasn't got a light square bishop, I've got good control of the light squares, and actually this completes my development. As long as I don't get checkmated in this position, I should do fine. King to e2 is apparently a better move. I don't know, according to the engine it's better. I just don't really see why. Just for the simple fact that, he's got this semi-open f-file, surely he could just attack it. I did look at the engine line here, but again, I'm not really too sure why that's a mistake. But okay, anyway, king to e2. Now here my opponent played a big blunder. He now castled here in this position, which is a big mistake. Better move was actually just taking here, and after b takes, now castle. The reason why it's better to do it this way is in the other move order, after castles, I could actually take here with my bishop, which was a mistake, but I could have taken with my knight now, which now hits this bishop and also maybe threatens to attack a few other pieces at the same time. However, in this position I didn't react to it beautifully, and I played here now bishop here, so we actually get into a kind of transposition to what we would have played in this position. Now, again, this looks really dubious for my king, but actually with all my pawns on dark squares, I just need to run onto a dark square now because I've given up my light square bishop, and actually black has not got a way to really deal with my king or throw any nasty checks to it. Okay, rook to b8 is played, a bit of a passive move, but at least it doesn't drop a pawn. I kind of feel like he has to play that, unfortunately, which is a bit annoying for him. Now I've shifted my rook over to f1, putting a bit of pressure on this f7 square. He now defends. And here I fought for a little while, but I then decided to go to f4, just looking to double up my rooks and maybe start doing some nasty stuff with my pawns potentially. Okay, so this is a key point here. At this point now he plays a big mistake, knight to d8. Not a great move, so passive, and I understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to maybe reroute this knight to this square. The problem is that right at this point it disconnects the communication between his rooks, and so it allows me to play this nice move here, bishop to e4. And notice now my bishop's hitting this queen, and once this queen moves, I'm then going to just be hitting maybe with another piece, or maybe move my other queen, and then his king is going to come under a lot of pressure very, very quickly. So queen came to e6, got out the way, and at least trying to trade off. I wasn't interested. I went to c2, hitting this pawn. g6 is played, and I was very happy to see g6, as now I've got I guess you could call it like a pawn lever or a pawn weakness that I can now try and pry open. I imagine this almost like a can that needs kind of like almost can opening, or I don't know. There was some analogy there that sounded really clever, but anyway, in any case, I'm going to wrench open his position now because the g6 pawn has moved. So now I play h4. I'm going to come to h5. I'm going to wrench open this position. Queen comes to d7. This is again another reason why I think e6 wasn't the best move, as had he gone to a different square, he then get his knight onto here. But in any case, he doesn't do this, so now he comes back to allow his knight to come to this square. h5 is played. I did not care about knight to e6, as now I got that one extra move. And again, this is so vital because I had that one extra move. I can now put my rook onto f4, h4. And, well, in this position, it's going to get very, very bad for black. And here he now plays knight here, which is actually just a bad move. It just gives me a big, big advantage. I will say, oh, sorry, there is an interesting defense here. Again, we looked at this afterwards, and I think actually it could be quite good. Is g5 now. And, you know, it looks like, okay, at first glance you think, God, this is a terrible move. Surely you can just now start taking here and all the rest, but it looks as though actually black's doing all right, because, you know, if I put my rook here, now hitting this pawn to get out of the attack, f5 comes in, and actually this is not as clear as I thought it was. Okay, I might take en passant here, but now rook comes in, and suddenly my position on my side starts to open up a bit, and actually it looks like he's holding his defense. I whack it in the engine, look at that, it's gone back to equal. So very crafty little defenses that he could have played here, just to show you an example line. Again, this was a cool move that we looked at afterwards. This knight discovery, just really cool. I have to play king, like I have to sacrifice the exchange. And okay, I'm up a pawn here, but my position is not looking super tight, and he's actually got perpetual after this. Isn't that cool? So this is a really cool line that I looked at with the engine afterwards that I think really makes things quite interesting. So anyway, I wrench open his position. He took back this way. I don't think I think both ways are going to lose here. But now I smash it open, the position. Queen takes on g6. What a move. Because now if he takes here, which is what happens in the game, well, this is going to be a checkmate in 2 now. Queen comes here with check. Only move, queen to block it. And a beautiful checkmate to finish the game off. Rook to h8. Yes. So all kind of collapsed very quickly in this position. Not much else he can really do in this position. Queen here. Yeah, it's just awful for black here. His king is totally exposed. Okay, he might. Again, these are some weird computer lines that I found where maybe black can try and come with some counterplay because my king's not exactly the safest king in the world. But again, this is absolutely fine for white here after this position. This looks awful for black. So yeah, a really nice, brilliant move. And as I say, even at this position, there's nothing else he can really do. He has to block here, and the game is over. So there we go. Very cool game. Quite happy with that win. Another kind of short win there. Yeah, I mean there wasn't too many challenges in this position. You know, maybe a little bit of weirdness in the opening over here with this double pawn, but actually it worked out for myself in the end. And again, some weird stuff with king to e2. But once again, it didn't really matter. I think my position was still fine. I was well developed. And although I had all these pawn weaknesses, it didn't matter. I was able to use the open files to my advantage, or the semi-open files to my advantage. Took advantage of a couple of mistakes from my opponent, and then really wrenched open his position to then win this game. So a very nice win for myself. So there we go. There's another game in the bag. Still got a couple more that I need to do before we finish this. But if you liked what you see, make sure you leave a like. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.